Today's topic is dynamic routing protocol authentication. Okay. How many of you guys are aware of this dynamic routing protocol authentication? Have you guys done before? Okay. Have you done with the ASA firewall routing authentication? You have done with routers, right? But between the firewalls, have you done? Okay. If you guys have done it, then tell me what's the use of dynamic routing protocol authentication? What is the use of DRP authentication? Tell me, what's the use? Why do we need the authentication of a dynamic routing protocol? Tell me. Oh, no answers. Very good. Okay. So those who have done on the routers, for them, my question is, let's say I have a three routers here connected with middle router. Let's say this is R1, 2, and 3. Here I have configured EIGRP. Here also I configured EIGRP. Port G0 by 0, port G0 by 0, G0 by 1, and G0 by 0. I used EIGRP authentication in this part. And this part, there is no authentication, but they are neighbors. So will your R3 get a neighborship of R1? Yes or no? Here authentication has been applied. Here authentication has been applied. And here also authentication has been applied with EIGRP. But these two places, these two routers interfaces where they are connected, their authentication hasn't been applied with a dynamic routing protocol. Tell me, guys, should you get the routes? Will you get all the routes propagated on the R3, or you'll get only the routes of R2 where it is connected? Tell me. Arvind says yes, it will. How about others? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Let me know what do you think about it. Tell me, guys, all of you. Pavan, how about others? Nidhi, Pavan, Priyanka, Rupesh, Sakshita. Tell me, you guys, what will happen? You guys have gone through basics, right? I hate when you guys keep quiet, just listening and not speaking anything. Okay. If there is if there is authentication between these two devices, and if there is no authentication, but if R2 has all the routes in its routing table, then definitely R3 will also have a route of R1. Okay. So per interface, you have to apply the authentication. This is what I mean. Okay. So Arvind, you are correct. Now, when I apply authentication between these two devices, or here also, if I apply the authentication, it means after the authentication, whatever the packets will pass, that will be encrypted. Hash value will be added to all the datas, and also a malware filtering will happen, correct? When I apply the authentication with the neighbors, then after authentication between two sites, the packets will pass in encrypted format between the two sites, right? How about others? I got two answers. Until you don't speak, how can I correct? MD5 authenticity is there. Okay. So MD5 provides the authentication. That is only for your keys, not for the remaining data. So when they authenticate, authentication happens in a secure way. But after the authentication, whatever communication happens is in a clear text. Authentication does not mean that you implement any encryption and the hashing to a data, right? What do you mean by authentication? It's just authentication. When you authenticate two sites, you are just implementing a security to your authentication for your neighborships. I don't want to get or I don't want to form a neighborship with the rogue devices. For that purpose, you create authentication. But authentication does not mean that it provides the encryption or the hashing. Don't correlate with your VPN, because in a VPN you create a policy wherein you have a default policy. If you don't apply encryption, then also encryption gets applied by default with IPsec. Here, am I implementing IPsec? Here, am I implementing IPsec that by default it will take some encryption if I don't apply also then? No, I'm not implementing IPsec. I'm just implementing authentication. And there isn't any type of mechanism which is being used to filter the intrusions between the devices. Here, when you do the authentication between the two sets, it's just authentication. Does not mean you are doing a malware filtering or any kind of encryption and all. Most routing protocol supports authentication, prevents spoofing neighborship relationships and updates. Okay, neighboring relationships and updates does not prevent a malicious update from authenticated peers. Okay, often available using a clear text password or the MD5 based hashing. So here also we use a shared secret. Here also we use a shared secret, and then the authentication happens and the peering happens between the two sides. So prevents a router from accepting untrusted updates. Shared key configured on the peer routers. Update receiver verifies MAC address using the shared key and received data. Protection relies on the shared secret key. So these are the important things that you should understand about the dynamic routing protocol. Am I clear to everyone now? What do you mean by dynamic routing protocol authentication? See, in interviews, they'll try to, divert your mind. They'll they'll show you confidence on such things that is not actually valid. So only your knowledge is going to filter that either it's a correct or wrong. Okay. So I'll show you a dynamic routing protocol authentication with two types like EIGRP and RIP and all. I'll show you with the ASA firewall. So let's see practicals. This time in your examination, EIGRP authentication is there in your examination in version 6. EIGRP authentication is there. That's why I'm including EIGRP. Okay, focus more on that. Okay, this is a topology. Okay, uh, okay, let me create a separate topology. Did you guys do a practical of Kali Linux, performing the live attacks and preventing? So let's say I have a two routers here connected with the ASA firewall. One is inside, another is DMZ. Interior gateway routing protocols will use in our private networks only, not on the outside. Outside we use a BGP and all. With this lockdown, let it end. After that, I'll start two things. One I'll start is two, three things I'll be starting. Right now, due to this lockdown, server I could not manage. I mean, like, I could not go and sit and repair it. So, DNAC session on this Saturday also, Sunday also, I won't be able to take. So, DNAC, and after that, CCIE security lab preparation. All these things will be starting from next. I mean, like, might be from July, I'll start. DNAC, CCI lab preparation, and CH. Three things. Okay. So guys, this part, these two interfaces of your router and firewall, we are going to use a RIP. And these two interfaces of your two devices, I'm going to use EIGRP authentication. Okay. So we'll see how do we configure our EIGRP and a RIP. First of all, we'll do a basic configurations. Hold on, guys. Let's configure a basic configurations first of all. So on DMZ, I'll take DMZ 192.168.10.0/24. This is inside 10.11.11.0/24. So let's take on R2, hostname R2, interface G0 by 0 with IP address 10.11.11.2, subnet mask 24. I'll say no shirt, interface loopback 1 with the IP address 10.12.12.2, mask as a 24. So these are the two IP addresses. So IP interface brief, you can see two IP addresses configured. Let's come to R3, host name R3, 192.168.10.3, subnet mask 24, interface loopback 1 with the IP address, let's say 172.16.10.2 or 10.3. So here also you can say both are fine. I haven't configured any route. I'll go to ASA, configure both the interfaces. G0 by 0, 10.11.11.10. Interface G0 by 1, name if DMZ, security 50 with the IP address 192.168.10.10. No shit. So right now from the firewall, if I try to ping the respective directly connected hosts, .2 I'm able to ping inside, and inside loop back if I try to ping 12.12.2, no route, directly connected 192.168, 10.3 reachable, but behind that 172.16.10.3, no route, no reachability. So now we are going to configure dynamic routing protocols and the authentications. So first of all, I'll do a normal routing configurations. So here I'll say router RIP, and I'll say no auto summary, and I'll say version 2 network. My networks like 10.0.0.0 would be fine to summarize both the 10.11 and 10.12 subnets. Okay, and let's see with the normal routing, neighbor SIP comes up or not between them. So on the ASA also, a router RIP v2. Here I guess version command you have version 2 no auto summary network 10.0.0 directly connected. And here if you say so route, and you can see there is a neighbor SIP of RIP, and I can see indirectly connected via R2, it's there. So if I want to reach dot 2, you can see I have a reachability. Okay, so once this is done, you can see there is a neighbor SIP between the two devices. Okay, so on the ASA firewall, first of all, I'll implement the authentication, and let's see the neighbor SIP goes down or not. Make sure that you see here neighbor SIP of a RIP is configured. All right. So what I'll do, I'll go to the interface G0 by 0, and I'll say here RIP authentication, and you have to go with two things. Either you can go with a mode or you can go with the key. So if you go with the mode, and here it is like MD5, you can use. Again, say RIP authentication, and this time go with key. Okay, and if you press a question mark, it will ask you for specify an encrypted format of the key. So I'll just define Cisco as a key, and then use a key ID. Use any key ID that should be same on both the devices. Okay, let's say I used a key ID as a 1. So these are the commands. So running interface G0 by 0, and you can see these are the commands that are used inside the EIGRP on this particular interface. Now if I say so route, this route will go, this neighbor SIP will go from this particular interface. Okay, so one side we applied authentication, and the other side we haven't applied the authentication. 10.12.12.2. Right now it's communicating. EIGRP has been configured on the one interface. On the ASA I configured EIGRP, so running interface is 0 by 0, MD5, and the key has been applied. So route, it will get flushed out after a few minutes. Meanwhile, if I show you how to configure it on R2, you can also create a key chain. First of all, you can say key chain, and in a key chain you can write some name. It will ask you for name, so KC1 or KC2, anything you can write. It's a router 2. Write here as a key and give the key identifier number. On ASA I use the identifier number as a 1. Here also I'll use it as a 1. Okay, and here if I use key string means just a key followed by 0 as a Cisco. Okay, and I'll say exit, and this I have to apply to a router interface. But before I apply, I must see your routing authentication gone on the routing Okay. I cleared a route from the routing table, and let's see if never SIP gets formed again. Is your route coming up, guys? Let's say if I go to G0 by 0, if I shut it also and say no shut, again when it has to negotiate with the dynamic routing protocol, it finds there is a authentication applied, and see your route for EIGRP is not coming up. Never, never SIP is not forming over here. So until we don't apply on the R2 also, your RIP will not come up. What's a multicast address of the RIP, guys? What's a multicast address of RIP? Correct. Okay. Still, let me show you once. Till now, EIGRP never SIP hasn't formed. So finally on router interface, if I go for G0 by 0, and here if I have to apply IP RIP authentication. See, on firewall, I didn't use a RIP command. Started directly from RIP authentication. So technically like this, you guys can remember it. Mode MD5, and again IP RIP authentication, and here little bit change with the command. There it was key, here it is keychain. And what was my keychain name here? I have to indicate the keychain name. Keychain name. Your keychain is already having the identifier number. So on the router and the firewall, little bit this is the difference. The rest everything is same. So as soon as you apply the authentication completely at the router 2, do so running interface G0 by 0. Here you can see these two keywords we applied after the keychain. Now if you go to a firewall and check, here you can see RIP never SIP has come down. So guys, did you understand how RIP is basically configured? What's the difference between router and ASA with the commands? Okay. Now let's see this part, EIGRP part. So on the ASA, one more dynamic routing protocol I'm going to use. That's your router EIGRP 10, no auto summary, network 192.168.10.0. That's my directly connected network. And I'll go to R3. Router EIGRP 10, no auto summary, network 192.1 192.168.10.0, network 172.16.10.0. Two things. So once I configure both directly connected, if I go to ASA, so route for 172, I can see through EIGRP it has formed a neighbor SIP via R3 as a gateway. And this time I will be able to reach this loop back communicating. But I need to apply the authentication. This time let's apply directly authentication on the router first. So here also you have to say keychain. See, once you understand almost all the dynamic routing protocols, the way of implementing will be same. Let's say keychain KC3, key ID, anything you can use, like I'll use 1. And say key string is nothing but it's a key, and I'll say exit. So key ring is ready. Go to the interface Z0 by 0 and apply IP authentication mode EIGRP 20 and use MD5 and IP authentication. You can see neighborship has gone down. IP authentication keychain EIGRP with autonomous number 10, right? And use the key ID. Sorry, keychain name. What was my keychain name? KC3. That's it. So running interface G0 by 0. These are the commands that I applied. Okay. Coming to ASA firewall. Here we'll apply to the interface G0 by 1. Okay. And here you'll say authentication mode EIGRP. I guess it's autonomous number 10 and say MD5. Again, authentication key EIGRP autonomous number 10 is key. It is asking for key was Cisco and key ID was 1. So before I press this, you can see on R3 do show IP route. There is no neighborship. EIGRP, nothing. And as soon as I give this, neighborship has come up. Okay. And also on the ASA, so route, I can see EIGRP neighborship. Everything is up. Now, if I say so running interface G0 by 1, I can see this key is in encrypted format. Okay. More system running config key. Okay. Guys, can you see this? If I normally go to the interface and if I see does not show the key, it shows in encrypted format. But when I use this command on the firewall, does it show you the key of a dynamic routing protocol with a RIP and with the EIGRP what I have used? Am I clear with this? Okay, so guys, we are done with SRNS. Okay, next week I'm starting ASA. I guess I'm starting ASA only. Let me just check it out. Let me tell you. Is anyone waiting for ASA in this class? Yes, Arvind, why not? That is important. We have to cover NGIPS also in FTD. And individual NGIPS also you have to see. Without covering that, how would you understand Lena and Snot both? See, actually, the way of teaching should be first of all, understand Lena means FTD. Once FTD you have understood, then individually understand NGIPS. Snot. So, two different operating systems separately you understood. Then come back to FTD again and understand how both the things works on a single OS FTD. That's how you have to do. If you directly see NGIPS on FTD, no doubt you will understand. But what will you understand with NGIPS? What about the sensing interfaces? How sensing interfaces works? What happens with the interface pairing and all? On FTD, you understand NGIPS. You apply NGIPS functionalities or the signatures based on the rule where you are trying to communicate inside and outside. Okay, so they are L3 interfaces. What about L2 interfaces? How would you create a how would you do the traffic filtering or the content filtering between two sensing interfaces? So when you work with FTD, you don't actually get the information about sensing interfaces because they are data interfaces. They are not acting like a L2 interface. They are acting like a L3 interface. But in NGIPS, concept is a little bit different. So you should understand both individually, then see both the things on FTD. Then it gives you a clear picture. Correct? In this class, all of you have attended ASA, right?
We are attending with Amit in the morning at 8 to 10 a.m.
Okay, we'll see. I'll text in group. I'll ask. Let's see how many of you they are waiting. How many of you are waiting for FTD classes? Okay, I'll inform you guys in a group. Let's see if I am modifying anything or what. See you guys. Take care. Okay. Practice everything properly. Shall I wait till ASA is finished before starting FTD? You can start FTD. Okay. No need to wait. See you guys.